Hi, Michelleoddo here with the Oddo Group at Leader One Financial, and something that we're seeing a lot of right now, unfortunately, is divorce. I am a CDLP, which means I'm a certified divorce lending professional. So there are special courses and a lot of training that goes into having that designation. Doing a loan for someone going through a divorce or who's had a divorce is not the same as just doing a loan. There are so many nuances that come into play with the divorce that when you're doing the loan side, the lender, if they're not a CDLP, could run into trouble. And we get the question, can I purchase a home while I'm going through a divorce if the divorce is not finalized? And the answer is technically in Colorado, you legally can, depending on your situation. So that's not a very clear answer, is it? In Colorado, this is a non-community property state. So that means just because you purchase a home, the other person does not necessarily have to be a part of that property if it's defined in writing that you're going through a separation and that you were able to purchase this property separate from the soon-to-be spouse. Some of the things that would make a difference on whether the lender would be able to proceed with the loan without the divorce being final would be some of the following. One, the person doing the loan, let's just say whichever spouse I'm working with, does not have to receive support to qualify. So they have their own job, their own income, and that income is enough to sustain the new payment. Two, the spouse that I'm working with does not necessarily, let's just say there's no kids. So we're not worried about child support, whether they're going to have to pay support or not. That would be another reason where it would be okay to move forward. The third reason would be you've started the process, you have what's called the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding. It's not necessarily all the way through the full timeline, court approved, all that, but it's been created, it's been agreed upon with the mediator, both spouses are good with the information on there, and we're working with what's on that MOU. In that case, we could proceed if, again, you don't need income from some sort of support to qualify. Or another time that you could purchase without the divorce being final is if everything's already been split up and all the assets have been split, and if there's other properties, those things have been split in terms of who is getting what, it's all lined out, it's been agreed upon, and both people have signed and agreed to these terms. And again, no concern with, let's say, our buyer being the primary breadwinner and there are kids, that creates a new problem. Clearly, if I'm doing a loan and you are the primary breadwinner and there are young kids in the home, then the concern for an underwriter or the end investor could be, how do we know if there'll be child support or maintenance that will be required to be paid? Will you lose some of the assets in the bank account that you thought you had full access to and now you don't? Are there debts you're going to have to take on that maybe you weren't anticipating, that you thought were going to go to the other spouse? So sometimes if I have the primary breadwinner and there's a lot of moving parts, we really need to have all those things nailed down, but the divorce does not need to necessarily be final, if that makes sense. So it's just every situation's a little different. We do plenty of loans where someone's in the middle of the divorce, at least, they've had that first meeting with the mediator or their attorney. We have enough information agreed upon and lined out that we can go ahead and make an educated decision on moving forward because we are not a community property state in Colorado. So hopefully that answers some questions. If you do need support to qualify, then we would need to wait at least until you've received 3 months worth of support for us to do an FHA loan, or 6 months of received support if we're doing a conventional loan. And that support can be even temporary support. So if you set up temporary support while you're figuring everything out and you have separate bank accounts, so maybe you didn't close your joint, but you've each opened a new account, as long as that spouse is paying some temporary support and that gets written into the agreement, that temporary support started on X date, and we can see it was received, we can actually use those months toward the qualifying of 6 months or however many, 3 months if it's FHA, 6 months if it's conventional. So hopefully that clears that up. We can do it if the divorce is not final, but there are some stipulations. It just depends on the situation. Not always, but many, many times we do that. So give us a call if you have questions. If you're going through divorce and you just need some questions answered, or you're not quite sure, what the steps are, or you just don't even know what to do first, we'd love to help you. Give us a call. Michelleoddo, the Oddo Group at Leader One Financial.